This video is to review Big Ideas Lesson 1.4 on multiplying integers. Just want you to think about also the importance of making mistakes today and how they help your brain grow. Alright, so here's a multiplication table. I just want you to think back about the rules for multiplying integers. In what situations is the answer positive? And in what situations is the answer negative? Take a moment to think. All right, so going back to our lesson, essential question, how do you multiply integers? We're going to write this lesson 1.4 summary if you haven't already. The product of two integers with the same sign is positive. The product of two integers with different signs is negative. So same signs, answer is positive. Different signs, the answer is negative. Remember in that vocabulary song that we looked at, we heard about the idea of a double negative, so maybe this comic here will spark that reminder about what that meant. Remember, you can think of multiplication as repeated addition, so when we think about 3 times 2, that's just like 2 plus 2 plus 2, and it equals 6. Or 3 times negative 2 is just like saying 3 groups of negative 2. And so we do negative 2, negative 2, negative 2, and we end up with negative 6. So remember we talked about fairy tales, stories. Again, another way to help you remember, if the signs are the same, it's going to be positive. So when good things happen to good people, it's a positive thing. If the signs are different, it's negative. So when a good thing happens to maybe the bad character in a story, we don't want that to happen, it's negative. Or if a bad thing happens to a good character in the story, we might think of that as being a negative too. Just another reminder for your brain. All right, find each product. So the first one we have negative 2 times negative 8. The signs are the same, so I know my answer will be positive. So I'm just taking the absolute value of those integers and multiplying them. So 2 times 8 is 16. Because my signs are the same, my answer will be positive, so it stays positive 16. Okay, and the second one, my signs are different, so I know my answer will be negative. 3 times 5 is 15, so my answer is negative 15. Okay, remember we talked about these problems, so are these two equations equivalent? And they are not. This first one means negative 7 is being squared. So when we write that out, it looks like this. Negative 7 squared is negative 7 times negative 7. Somebody asked me this week, super smart question, how do I know when to put parentheses around this? If I'm going to end up having two signs right here next to each other, I always use parentheses to separate it because I want to separate my operation sign, which is the dot for multiplication, from the sign that goes with the integer. And so in this case, I would use parentheses to separate that. So my problem is negative 7 times negative 7. I have the same signs, so it's going to be a positive answer, and it is positive 49. In the second example, I'm really reading this as the opposite of 7 squared. Okay, so that integer sign is going to be attached to 7 squared. So when I write this out, it is actually the opposite of 7 squared, or 7 times 7. And so my answer for this one is negative 49. I have to do 7 times 7 and then take the opposite of that. All right, a few more practice problems. So negative 10 times 4, I just want to remind you that dot means multiplication. We'll move away from using the x as a multiplication sign because we often will use that as a variable. So negative 10 times 4, signs are different, so it will be negative. It is negative 40. All right, next one. Oops. Again, another representation of multiplication you're going to see is that parentheses. So if you see an integer next to parentheses and there's no sign, that means you're multiplying. So this problem is read as -5 times -6. The signs are the same, so the answer will be positive 30. All right, this time we have 3 integers we're multiplying together. The commutative property of multiplication says you can multiply in any order, so it's up to you what you'd pick to do first. I'm just going to go from left to right. My brain works that way sometimes. So I would first do 12 times -1. So 12 times -1 is going to give me -12 because the signs are different. And then I have to multiply that -12 by -2. So now my signs are the same. I'm going to have a positive answer. One more with 3 integers that we're multiplying. So this one, again, I'm just going to go left to right. You notice the parentheses are being used to show multiplication. So I'm going to say -10 times -3 is my first part. So the signs are the same. My answer will be positive 30. Then I have to multiply that by -7. 30 times -7 equals -210. All right, one more with these exponents. So -2 to the 3rd power. Okay, so this one means we're taking -2 to the 3rd power. Okay, that negative sign is attached to the 2 in this case. So when we write this out, it would be -2 times -2 times -2. Remember, this exponent tells us to the power of, or how many times we're going to use this base -2 as a factor. So we need to use -2 as a factor 3 times, and then I'll be multiplying it by -6. Okay? So we can do this step by step. So -2 times -2 gives me a positive 4. Then I'm left to do times -2 times -6. 4 times -2 is going to give me a -8, and then I still need to multiply by that -6. Same signs now, -8 times -6, it is a positive 48. One example of a word problem you may see: you lose 5 points for every wrong answer in a trivia game. What integer represents the change in your points after answering 8 questions wrong? So I have to first write lose 5 points as an integer. So to lose 5 points would be a -5 points. If I'm going to have 8 questions, then I'm going to multiply by 8. So -5 times 8. I'm just going to use parentheses to represent that multiplication. I have different signs. So -5 times 8 equals -40. That's how many points I have lost after answering 8 questions incorrect. All right, today your job is to do Big Ideas Lesson 1.4 assignment. Make sure you submit a screenshot of your score to Canvas. You do not have to submit work. I think much of your thinking will be in your brain, but you're welcome to submit work if you think that it helps you to review your work, or if it might be something we want to discuss. After you finish your assignment, I want you to update your notes, highlight, underline, circle, add information, update your table of contents. We've been doing something called focused note taking, and to do that, it's kind of a 5-step process. We take our notes, we process our notes, so that's where we're maybe going back and rereading, looking through things. Make connections to your thinking, so that's a time where you can highlight, underline, circle, add information, might be pictures that help you. Number 4, we always summarize and reflect on your learning. That's when we look back at our essential question and write a summary. And then number 5 would be applying our learning, and so that's how do you use those notes on tests, on quizzes, on assignments to support your learning. Okay? Have a great day.